This is the Handshake Agency Podcast.
Well, hello, Tim, and hello, Davey.
Hello, Tiana.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for joining us on the Green Room podcast. I know for a lot of us it has been a wild and woolly time, not just for the last 12 months, but coming into 2021. But you and Maya have not only survived, but you have thrived. And obviously we've now been gifted with your 11th studio album. You've busted out the lives of others for all of us. I know it wasn't without its struggles, but how does it feel to be at this point having that beautiful album out in the world and with 2020 in the past now?
Well, if one thinks that it's fun having an album out at the age of 21 or 31 or 41, having one out at the age of 51, speaking personally. David, are you 41?
I'm 41 in 1 year, so I would decide to put one out when I'm 40.
Oh.
And that's quite a bit of fun. But
It's really good fun
Yeah.
when you feel proud about something and doing... actually people showing an interest and asking us to do it. Our bass player and manager, Andy, when he calls me and says, bro, we've got to meet, I think, oh no, what have I done? Where have I fallen over? And we met in this hotel room in Brisbane. I was so nervous. I even dressed up for the occasion. And he sat me down and said, bro, just want to say thanks for all the work you've been doing and doing the promo. Everyone's really happy with it. So when then my shoulders dropped, ordered a quick cocktail.
Of course.
And I said, well, seriously, mate, it's that anyone and that people have shown an interest and being so lovely about it.
it's really
so joy.
encouraging. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, not only that, you guys have also been able to bring all of this to life live on stage, which I know it's been over a year for you guys to be able to do that. Like, how incredible does that feel to also be able to bring that in conjunction? I mean, the timing's not what we would say perfect, but...
Right. Yeah. I guess while we were making the record, I mean, a lot of what went into making the record was using our imaginations, because we, obviously we couldn't be all together in the same room at the same time. And, when Tim and I got together to lay down the initial foundations for the record, we had to imagine what it might sound like with our friends, Sydney side friends, playing on it. And and that was kind of like, and likewise for them, when they went into a studio up here, they had to imagine, they could hear us in their headphones. And
When Rusty, our drummer, the world's drummer,
Of course.
when he talks about laying down his parts, and he imagined our physicality when we're playing, because I don't know if it's a symbiotic relationship, because I think symbiotic is without sight. I'm not exactly sure.
right.
I'm a half-educated human, but he could imagine the physicality of what I'm playing, because he said it informed the way he played. When I know for myself, when I'm playing, I'm imagining him, and that's only after 30 years of playing together. Because if you're going to play in a band, you might as well play with the band and visualise each other. And I guess the benefit of doing over 2,500, 3,000 shows together is that we can imagine each other visually and physically. And so imagination was a big thing. Gee, we can waffle on, can't we? We were just speaking to Fran Kelly at ABC, Fran, a political journalist, and a really big fan. She's an intimidating intellect, and I think, but she was like, kind of, boys, stop there. So,
Rein it in.
well, if we're rambling now, it's because we feel like we've been let off the leash.
Well, that's exactly what it is, though. Like, and it's kind of nice to have this opportunity to just cut loose a little bit,
Absolutely.
be around
We're
people
talking
and
on
talk.
a bloody podcast.
Exactly.
When I was 12, my uncle...
Yes, let's go back to your childhood. But I guess talking about, like, taking back a little bit before all of this beautiful time that we're in now, where it is out in the world and you can play on stage. I mean, can you talk me through, it did obviously start to have its legs growing before COVID, and Tim, I believe you were down on the South Coast, maybe on the sly bartending, I do believe. Is this correct?
Tiana, whole South Coast thing and writing these songs was the year before. I was down there just on a drinking and fishing experience with my old mate Nick, he and I started the band. But then I went and just started working bar again, needed a job and just didn't want to be thinking about music for a while. Nothing like cleaning toilets to make you wish you were playing music again.
Oh, yes.
But there was a shift, maybe it was late February, and it was Sunday afternoon, and it was the Blues Club at the Esplanade Hotel, and a great band were playing. But a couple walked in, an older couple, and they were both wearing masks. And the bar where I worked at, the SB, is a bit of a it's a small space, and it feels like a bit of a petri dish. One of the reasons I started working there, apart from I needed a job, was I thought, 30 years being a germaphobe, I need to get over this. And so there's nothing like working in a pub because you're just working in swill and, and also clean cutlery and glasses for everybody. But when this couple walked in with masks and they sat at the end of the bar, and any time I'd go to approach them, they'd do this and just ask for water. And that's when I looked and thought, oh, it's all happening. This is true. So went home that night and wrote to my bosses and said, I don't think I'm able to work. I don't think it's responsible for us to keep the bar open. And then next minute.
Yeah. And that was, kind of when everything happened, it was, I'd come off 6 months of pretty intense touring. So for me, it kind of seemed like a bit of a novelty at the time, and it's like, a few weeks of an enforced break or something like that. But I'm really lucky to have like a little studio set up at home. So that was my thing. It's take a bit of time off and make some new music.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If I didn't have that outlet to be able to, I made a record of my own, and we made the UMI record in that time. So it was kind of productive. But
just one thing we've been talking about that we get asked about, it must have been hard being musicians who normally play a couple of hundred shows a year, how it was as writers, both of us, and Davey works in the studio and knows what he's doing, I don't. But to have a creative outlet was a real relief, and we've got friends who work in either hospitality or the entertainment industry who are more hands-on. Yeah, I think it was significantly harder for people who didn't have that outlet, because for us, if we've got a Spyrex notepad and a pen or a piano in front of us, we can do something. Yeah, that gives us a little bit of a relief and a little bit of injection of hope and love.
Yeah.
Terror.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
I guess too, did this kind of time give you a chance to reevaluate how a UMI album eventuates? Did it give you a little bit of that time because often you'll have all these deadlines and tours and everything to kind of balance alongside of it. Was that a good thing?
We're kind of, I don't think we've ever, when we've made records in the past, we'll have a studio booked for 5 days or 6 days, and we like setting ourselves those parameters to work, and it's okay, but by the end of this 6 days we have to have a record done. Yeah. So to kind of have it as a little more open-ended a thing. I mean, it was good for me because I could refine my parts and there was a little bit of time to kind of go back and refine and reflect on what we'd done.
As opposed to that, I'd do everything in the first or the second take and go,
good enough.
Out of tune, always has been. So when Andy and Russ saying, they could evaluate their parts, I think that, again, made me think about us recording, because I have no patience and figure, well, I've written the things that just go in and sing and play, but we don't all work the same way. And I think one of the things that experience can offer you is the opportunity to look around a room and go, we don't actually all have to work in the same methodology. And if I work like a stupid, emasculated bull at a gate, that doesn't mean that everyone else has. And we got asked by Frank Kelly wonderful friend before said, "Well, what's the secret in being a band together for 30 years?" I think it's that listening to what your bandmates need or want, and you don't all have to have this group methodology, as long as you can enjoy company but also respect each other's space and respect the way that we each work.
Yeah.
And then have no respect for each other once tools are down.
Absolutely, yeah. Clocked off, it's on.
It was an incredibly harmonious recording experience in
worked in the same room.
During working hours.
Well, I'm sure we'd write to each other and suggest different approaches, and whereas with if we're all in the same room at the same time and things, sometimes suggested, and it's like, hey, Davey, why don't you? And it's like, fucking tell me that.
Our last record that we made in 2015 in Brooklyn at the House of Soul in where Daptone Records have their studios and their offices. And it's a tiny room and it's a beautiful room. But it was summer. Our engineer, Wayne, just this wonderful, wonderful man, great engineer. But, yeah, we're kind of, shouting at each other and, turn that down and that. Yeah. And it just happens that your shackles rise. Shackles rise. And
so I think, obviously doing it remotely, there probably was, there probably was that moment on the receiving end of like, fucking hell, I've already worked out my fucking part. But, but then there's also the time to let the dust settle and go right back and go, okay, cool, but no worries, that sounds fine. Let's try it like that. And, it was...
Is that the way you write letters? Mine are all quill and ink, and I give them to a pigeon.
Oh, I've been doing it wrong.
I record all my messages onto Edison reel and then have that sent up on a donkey up the Hume Highway.
Just send faxes to people and just say, no, I faxed it.
Oh, that's a little too...
It's too far. I'm so sorry.
I don't know why I try and present myself as living in some kind of bohemian wonderland,
Oh, it's too modern for you. My mistake.
Just hold me up as I'm, I don't know what the most modern thing... The most modern thing I did today was wake up.
Yeah.
But how did you wake up? Like alarm clock or?
Surrounded by opium and finally laudanum and
But it's beautiful.
Some young men of the night.
So just a casual weekday then.
Just call it Tuesday.
And I guess with all of this in mind, I know it's not the ideal setup for you guys, but given if you were ever looking to potentially a 12th album down the track, not that I'm pushing that, but it would be a lovely thing. I'll push away.
Oh, yeah.
Would you consider incorporating some of this remote stuff if it meant that you guys could still kind of live your lives a bit separately and do what you needed to, or you're done with the isolation, done with the lockdown?
That's a really good question. I haven't been asked that before. Yeah. I think we wouldn't be able to stop ourselves just thinking, no, let's book a room for 4 days and let's make a triple album. Just that impetuous nature. And then Andy'd go, bros, take a breath.
Yeah.
He's the calm, steady heart of us, bros.
I think it would. I think that mode of working would possibly influence like writing and pre-production in that phase, but I think as much as we got a great result out of working that way, it will be nice to be able to all be in the same room together. But I think in terms of that initial process of working out songs, working out parts, I reckon that'll kind of mean we use our studio time more economically anyway,
and we will not have any money to make another record. Yes. No, it's just...
Well, yeah.
The coffers are low.
So it's a hard no currently?
It's a hard no, yeah. We did have to talk 6 months ago because we couldn't pay the monthly bill for storage space, and our storage space has been decreasing over the decades. Yep. We used to have a big storage space, and now it's about the size of a shoebox, about a size 11. And Andy had said, look, geez, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I'll go back to my gardening job. And, Davey said, we can do this. And Andy said, no, let's do something as a band to try and pay for our storage space. But it got to that point, which, happens. But we did talk recently saying when we make a record, we give ourselves, yes, as Davey said, that parameter, 7 days. That's a pretty good time for us to make a record, wherever it is. But the first night, we say, come on, let's dig in, boys. But we're going to get absolutely fucked up, because we're together and we're like, hey, we're making a record.
It's all part of it.
It's happened every
single flipping time. So day 2, 3 and 4 are rubbish.
Yep.
Day 5, we start coming back out of the hole again, and then day 6 and 7, yes, go for it.
Yep.
But we avoided having that first night blowout. Blowout, if you get my drift. And so there was no day 2 or day 3 or day 4.
Yeah.
And with what eventuated to, I believe that it kind of started off more in a folksy kind of aspect.
Well, that's
here.
how, like, the songs that you wrote were completely different.
I started writing them, on a fishing trip.
Yeah.
And I wanted to really concentrate on the lyrics. And I found with writing folk stylings, you're able to work with scansion and rhythm.
Yep.
And so I did and honed them down and wrote them about 5 or 6 different ways they were going to be orchestrated with a friend of mine, Ross Irwin. Do it that way. And then about March or April last year, when it looked like things were all really happening, I started to miss the band I'm lucky enough to play in. And so I took those songs and thought, I wonder if I could turn these into You and My songs. And I thought, well, they've been through 6 iterations before that, so surely I could turn them into rock and roll songs for the band. And that seemed to work. And by that stage, because I had the words sorted out and the scansion of it, I thought, well, okay, I've done my work and now let the beauty begin.
And then Davey, obviously you've been credited not just with the recording stuff, like I've read a lot about you bringing that 60s stuff and the glam stuff all to it. Like, is that kind of something you had always planned to inject into something, or is that just what flows out of you?
Well, it's just what's kind of in my DNA musically, I guess.
Yep.
I guess, I like all a bunch of different styles of music, but that's one that always, seems to that particular influence kind of is something that will always permeate in one way or another, whatever I do. But
maybe that with the 60s stylings or early 70s stylings, I guess one thing about records made in that time was that and records are still made now, but there's such an emphasis on production. Seen with so many records these days. I think as a group, individually we've got interest in, if you listen to Davey's solo records, they're so immaculately produced and arranged and instrumentally very different from You and My records. But together as a band, we think, without ever talking about it, because that would be embarrassing, that there's something about the, and here I'm going to use this word, are you all prepared? Organic nature of 4 humans in a room making this clatter that can sound really awful or really beautiful, and we see the beauty in that the sum of our parts is greater than the individual sums. What are sums? Some of the sums. And so if that's got quite a bit in common with the popular records of those eras, so be it. But we don't see it as being beholden to an era, because we might use 12-string guitars or a little bit of phasing here, or we sound like a rock and roll band. We feel that that's just as legitimate in whatever year it is we're living in. It just seems to the wider popular consciousness be a product of those eras.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll casually step back from that answer before I embarrass myself.
No, it's perfect, beautifully done. Great segue. And as we did touch on earlier too, like, now the amazing thing is you've been able to bring this to life. You've been able to jump up on stage and get a bit rowdy, bring some rock and roll to the masses.
Yeah, well,
it's really tiring. we did 2 shows the other night in Brisbane, and we were thinking, 2-show day, flipping ripper,
Yeah,
no
man.
problem, let's get on it. And
Yeah.
everyone met up at the airport, Brisbane airport, and the luggage
Belts
belts
luggage
had
belt
shut
had
down,
broken
and
down.
it was really
Good.
overcrowded. And Davey and I
Great.
looking at each other, just sweating from a brow. Like, this
You
is
have
really
an
difficult.
anxiety attack as well.
Yeah,
not
let's
okay.
just pop a Valerie. Come on, maybe there's a bar. But and then yesterday got to Sydney and he said, come on, let's go out. And then kind of called each other in the afternoon and went, are you really, really tired and hurting?
Are you also in pajamas currently?
Oh, no. We
Not
were-
Tim, though. Obviously
we were,
not Tim.
No, we were dressed up,
Yeah.
both of us. But we just thought, we may need to ease into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Just in, sort of mentally we were crashing, of course, but you expect that. But physically,
Yeah.
all that, and jumpy, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
takes it
yeah.
out of you.
Yeah, it's like everyone has to get gig fit again, and
Gig
it's,
fit.
It's
Yeah.
it's easy, I guess, if you're doing it all the time. You take it for granted.
Maybe we can get, you got your
Should
fit, you got your fit butt and all
Oh,
that.
your foot button.
We can get good fit.
Let's go get
I
gig
wouldn't
fit.
wear a foot button and a pink foot.
But you can get
Tony
good.
Martin's. I can't take credit for that.
But talk me through that first moment walking on stage after over a year playing. Like, what was going through your head?
Oh, it was great. It was in Bunbury or
It was,
Albany?
Bunbury, yeah.
Bunbury in West Australia.
yeah.
We thought we were prepared. There was a gentleman doing monitors. It was just in a pub. And about 5 minutes in, we're kind of having the looks where we're a couple of songs in and we kind of looked at each other and mentally, because we can read each other's minds,
Of course.
the monitors aren't working. And we kind of thought, what are we going to do here? Because the gentleman doing the monitors at side of stage was sweating and Russ is kind of what the flip and we're all pointing to him. I think we made a conscious decision then through our mind thoughts that, bugger it. The monitors aren't working. Well, let's just, it doesn't, it sounds terrible. It's, we're all playing way too loud. I've lost my voice. We're 3 minutes in. It's just like 1994.
Or, when those things happen, it's like, the Beatlemen would play at Shea Stadium without any monitors. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if they can do it, then. But, yeah, we had a day or two's rehearsal before we started those shows. And I started to, once we got into a room together and, obviously the thing of, we'd not locked eyes with each other, like obviously Tim and I have and Andy and Russ had, but in over a year.
Yeah.
And that was its own thing. But as soon as we started to play these new songs together, it was like, I started to get a bit teary. I was like, it's just like the whole, the weight of everything that had happened in the year previous and the whole process. But we, just being, it was something, being in a room together playing songs was just not something that I was imagining, because I didn't know when it was going to actually happen. So when it did happen, it was a
Or if it would. We've been
beautiful thing.
talking to folks and also speaking to friends and family overseas about post-traumatic stress and I don't think even being us Victorians would think that last year it was a trauma, but there was an element of just in this, just not knowing what's going on, and of course being incredibly worried about family overseas. I've had family that have died from the plague, and my daughter getting it. Everyone's had stories about it. But through playing music, we get the chance to, and even though none of the songs on the album particularly address the plague situation, knowing that they were recorded and written then, when we're playing them, you catch yourself at little moments going, oh, it's truth. This is more emotional than normally playing older songs. But we get the opportunity to let that pour out.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate that we can, because I still think there's people are quite jumpy. I don't notice it as much up here. Definitely notice it back home.
Absolutely.
And speaking to my daughter in New York, she talks about it all the time. She's working in a couple of restaurants and cafes, and said, "Yeah, everyone's not quite sure how to act yet."
It's just that underlying thing still percolating.
Yeah.
A little bit. Less and less. But
I guess we feel fortunate that we get the opportunity to go out and express and emote, and hopefully we can bring a bit of joy or a bit of sense of fun or normalcy or whatever to other people, while not ignoring the fact that we're still in a global situation.
Yeah, well, it beats like putting up 25 million photos of the sourdough bread you baked at home during lockdown. So I think bringing out an album is probably...
What's your problem with sourdough?
I've got no problem with sourdough. I just want to eat it. That's the problem. I'm just jealous.
Who knew it was so tasty,
I know,
huh?
right?
It's true.
In the talking about habits of home last year, there was a little fruit and veg store run by Effie of Tasmania, the most wonderful human, run this little fruit and veg store. And then since things have become a little less odd at home, I just haven't been back to see Effie, and got talking about things that you did last year on your little walk outside, your little out, that you just can't kind of do anymore. And only realising it weeks later, I don't go to that bottle shop, or I don't sit in that park and drink and weep, or buy capsicums from Effie, because you kind of just don't want a reminder of how that was.
Totally. Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of all part of this whole experience that we're all bringing into this, and it's adding a lot of colour, for better or worse, to a lot of aspects of our lives. And
absolutely,
I guess you guys are forging full steam ahead. I know you've now got, a word that seems very foreign, a festival or festivals coming up as well. So it's, it's all happening.
We are playing a festival, the Spring Loaded thing.
Yeah.
The 90s.
Yeah, the 90s are back.
We thought it was the 1790s. We thought it was a steampunk festival.
That'll be right up your alley.
We're going to put on our...
I bought that bloody top hat with goggles.
Just go that you and I are now a steampunk band. We've just established, so we're going steampunk.
I'm going to get that long mesh jacket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Plague doctor's helmet.
Very
all
appropriate.
We really got that wrong.
Well, I'm sure you'll knock it out of the park no matter what. And I guess it's just amazing for all of us to be able to see the lives of others in action. No doubt for you guys as well. And congratulations on bringing more You and My Magic as per usual to all of us. And thank you for joining me today for a chat.
Thank you.
Very grateful for the opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day and your beer.
Oh, we're going to enjoy the day. We're in Sydney and we've got a day off. What can possibly go wrong?
Don't watch the news tomorrow.
Green Room with Tiana Speter is a podcast from the Handshake Agency Network, produced by Tiana Speter and Andrew Mast, with Pharrell D'Souza and Henry Gibson providing research. Recorded and engineered by Zig Parker, executive producer Craig Treweek.